Hello and welcome into A Slice of Life Hour with me, Eugene Low, for your dose of do-it-yourself motivation. And today we're talking about motivation, in particular happiness, fulfillment, whatever you want to call it. If you have it, you know you have it. If you don't, you surely, understand what it feels like as well. But the question is, why aren't more of us happy at work? We do spend so much time at it. Many of us spend a lot of time at doing our work, even when we're home or we're in the commute, so it really takes up a large part of our lives. So it's integral to find that fulfillment at work. My guest today is Eileen Seah, who is an organizational psychologist and executive career and talent coach. 50% of her time spent with professionals who are employed, and the other half spent on people who are out of jobs, unemployed, going through a transition period, perhaps. Okay, so to shed more light on this particular situation, at least in Eileen's experience, tell us what have you gleaned, from your experience with your clients? What sort of challenges are they facing at work first? Let's talk about people who are at work.
Okay, thanks, Eugene. Firstly, thanks for giving me this opportunity.
You're very welcome.
I've actually been working in the employment market for close to 30 years. I started my career in a public sector and then moved to a private sector. I've done different roles. I'm a computer science grad. I've done frontline roles and I've also done service roles. And in fact, mid-career, I made a change into the talent space. And a lot of my time is to work with high potentials. So these are individuals in the organizations who has the room to actually move and succeed and maybe even take up critical roles as well. Now at work, what I've observed as well is people who are either dissatisfied with their job because of money. I think that's the easy peasy part. So we can throw a lot more money and motivate them. There are people who are, not very satisfied with work because they don't get time for their hobbies. So you see people who, at around about 3 or 4 o'clock, they are all packing ready to go, looking forward to the long weekend and all that. So to them, maybe happiness comes in that form. But the third category of people is what I've observed. There are people who, despite having status, having money, having happiness at home, are totally dissatisfied with work. And that's more because of office politics.
Okay.
These are the people who just get a lot of unhappiness because they find that there are people who are behaving around the office which are not actually working in a very positive way. They are either rumor mongering, they are not very productive. In fact, a lot of organizations are dealing with absenteeism, and that is sort of the thing of the past. What's happening right now is actually presentism. We get a lot of disruptive technology with us, and more of the time you get people at work, they're looking at the computer, but their mind is somewhere else.
Okay. All right. So you have these three groups of people. The first one, like you mentioned, they're motivated financially. So that's pretty straightforward. Like you mentioned, just throw more money at them and they're happy, right? The second group, they want more leisure time on their own. And that's also fairly simple in terms of an employer perspective. You can sort of give them a bit more time to pursue their interests. Or on a personal level, they can always schedule more time, surely, to pursue the things they want to pursue. It's the other group, this third group, that is quite interesting, right? Because it's nothing to do with internal or personal factors, right? It's external.
Yeah.
Office politics is something that can be quite toxic, You can have a perfectly good job, happy at it, but you can get very affected by it.
Yeah, and I think externally there are also other factors.
Yes, what are the other factors?
Changes, right? I mean, a lot of companies are going through lots of changes.
Yes.
And changes not because of the employee's performance, but more external factors such as the market demands, things have changed, the client's needs and wants have also changed. The very fact that we've got iPhone with us, I mean, how did that come about? It's actually Steve Jobs creating a brand new need itself. So changes always happen, and I see that a lot happening in companies, and employees, instead of reacting very positively to change, they take a very, absorbing sort of perspective just to say, this change is not happening. I'm not happy. Where is my regular pay? Where's the time that I get to do my hobbies and all that?
There's a lot of resistance.
Lots of resistance. So I see a lot of that. Personally, I've got a very happy career. right from the beginning to today, you can see that I've gone through lots of changes, lots of transitions. So what got me to looking at happiness itself was really more to help people to enjoy their career more and to embrace change.
Right, okay. So you never fell into any of these three groups of people that you mentioned?
Well, I would say...
Fleetingly, is it? Just
Not
temporarily,
really.
but you fixed it.
No. I think we all get dragged into office gossips now and then. But I think the change must start with yourself. It's either you're adding more to the gossip, or you try to, change the perspective and be the change that you want to be. And look at a very different perspective itself, which I have a few, tactics which we can all apply at work.
Okay, which we'll go into more detail
we
later on.
More
I'm just curious though, you mentioned, change as one of undesirable change or painful change at work that people feel resistant to, and office politics as well. Surely there must be so many other factors that cause unfulfillment at work. I think one very important one that's often being brought up is that people, after a while, they kind of don't know why they are doing the work that they're doing, we talk about passion all the time, and it seems some people maybe started off having that passion, and after a while, they kind of lost it, So is that something that also comes up? Because this humdrum feeling, of not really achieving much, plateauing, as some people call it, that happens very much in mid-career when you're in your 40s, sort of, So do you get quite a few people talking about this sort of thing as well?
By and large, most of us will spend about 40 years in a job market, thereabouts, or 40 to 50 years, depending on which age you intend to retire. In the early phase, early 10 years is what we call early careers. In the early careers, diversification, lots of different experience is probably what a lot of professionals actually look for.
Yeah.
And then come to about the next 10 years, about 25 years of work thereon, people will start to question, okay, I've been there, done that, I've done lots of stuff. What's in it for me? I think doing something that you like would be something that is more important. Really getting a lot of passion and looking forward to doing the things that you like would be very important as well.
Yeah.
And maybe they get a lot of satisfaction from there. But I think the thing we want to look at right now is when changes happen. When changes happen, the group of people that you mentioned initially that I work with, these are the group of people who are out of work. Change happen and they are unable to respond. So firstly, it starts with the perception. Why is this change happening to me? Why am I so unlucky? Why am I picked out and singled out, for this change? Why is it not Joe Bloggs who's sitting just next to me? What did I do wrong? It must be that particular manager whom I did not butter up to. And maybe that, didn't put me in his good books.
The whole Korean drama serial plays out in our minds, basically.
Yeah, the whole mental game that they play with themselves. So I think perception, is one thing that we can actually control. In fact, James Bogg in his 2303 book has mentioned very clearly as well, where we have the power to challenge our thinking.
Yes. It's a very human response, of course, when something like that happens to us. It's very instinctive that we feel it's unjustified, that there's been some cosmic imbalance, that has caused us to be in this position. But that kind of thinking is very paralyzing. It's very disempowering. It doesn't help the situation at all. It just makes it worse and worse. So how can we kind of get through or get past this sort of thinking? We'll continue to get some thoughts from you, Eileen Seah, on A Slice of Life Hour today with me, Eugene. Eileen Seah is an organizational psychologist and executive career talent coach. She helps professionals who are employed stay fulfilled in their employment through adversity and change and challenges, and also helping unemployed people going through a transition. You can find more details on her. These days it's very simple. Facebook, LinkedIn, Eileen is there. We'll continue to chat with Eileen and get more thoughts from her in just a while on 938 Live. Hello, and thanks for joining me, Eugene Low, on A Slice of Life R for your dose of do-it-yourself motivation. In her experience, over 30 years of experience working in the corporate sector, Eileen Seah, who is an organizational psychologist and executive career talent coach, has dealt with mainly three groups of people who perhaps find their needs not met in their work, and that's why they experience a lot of dissatisfaction at work or unhappiness. One is financial, money, which is quite straightforward. You can always give them more money. They can always find some way to make more money. No leisure time or not enough time to pursue their passions. That also can be quite easily solved depending on how cleverly you manage your schedule. But the third group, affected by drastic change, often can be quite traumatic if, say, your reputation suffers or your job is made obsolete. Perhaps your boss leaves, and your position is made meaningless. And office politics as well. A lot of things that can derail our happiness at work, not necessarily due to any sort of fault of ours. We may love our jobs, but then again, if you have a very toxic supervisor, what happens then? That sort of thing, right? So we dealt with the unhappiness part, and of course, we could talk about treating the symptoms, but we want to talk about holistically, because happiness has to start first. You have to build that happiness and fulfillment before the path ahead of you becomes clearer. So you mentioned some 4 levels of happiness that you'd like to share with us, Eileen.
Yes, and I think before I get into the 4 levels of happiness, what we mentioned about the money, the time, the hobbies, and all that, actually it's not very far off from Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. At a very, very fundamental layer is actually physiological needs, the need to be fed, right? I mean, hunger needs. When we're hungry, we just need to eat. And before we even talk about whether we find any job fulfillment, we need to fill our tummy. So it goes on without saying. And then following that, we talk about intellectual needs, safety needs, and then right at the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs is self-actualization, which is more spiritual. But when you look a bit further, about 2,400 years ago, Aristotle actually came up with the definition of 4 levels of happiness. Starting with the first level is called immediate gratification. So some of us find a lot of joy in what we call retail therapy, owning the latest BMW, luxury car, whatever it is, it means for you.
Or
These are more
a nice dinner.
A nice dinner. These are more transient. These are immediate gratification. They're more sensing. The level 2 of happiness is actually gratification through achievement. So something around ego, right? I've achieved a 5-figure pay. I've owned a condo. Basically I have a luxury car, I have a family, I've achieved everything. Or it could be in the area of sports, right? I'm the best bowler ever. Well, my 3 kids are in Singapore sports school, so that's
right. So it's performance-based and outcomes,
and outcomes. So that's the second level. And the third level of happiness, what Aristotle has written out, is gratification through contribution. So the ability to help others. It's all about helping the community, playing a part in a community. So some people actually have that source of happiness, happening to them. So I tend to look at community volunteers as people who are suffering, but they're not. They're actually very, very happy people.
And they feel valuable when they're able to give value to other people.
Yes, that's right. And the ultimate level, the 4th level, is transcendent gratification.
Wow.
And that's more long-term. It has a more long-term impact.
All right.
Yeah. So
I'll have to stop you there because we have to go for the news, but you've brought us to a good point where we're going to continue on from later on. Transcendent gratification. What is that all about? Where else can we go beyond contribution, achievement, and immediate gratification? Find out more from Eileen Seah on A Slice of Life R, coming up in about 15 minutes here on 938 Live. Hello and welcome to A Slice of Life Hour with me, Eugene Low, for your dose of do-it-yourself motivation. Welcome back, actually. And we're chatting today with Eileen Seah, who is an organizational psychologist and executive career and talent coach. Half of her time is spent with professionals who are employed, helping them find fulfillment at work, and also how to find fulfillment in spite of adversity and challenges at work. Also, the other half of her time, she helps people who are in transition, who are unemployed, out of a job, perhaps they feel that they're at that point in their lives where they perhaps feel not so valuable, because they're out of a job. And in our society, I suppose, that is one of the yardsticks, right? I mean, it's quite unfortunate, but, we do kind of judge people. If someone is unemployed, we immediately think bum. Right? So it's a lot of these kind of social expectations, that a lot of the pressure that comes on these people as well. So before we get into that, let's first recap earlier what you talked about, those 4 levels of happiness. Those 4 levels, the first one is immediate gratification, which is quite simple to understand, right? Things like buying something, retail therapy, like you mentioned, right? Second is achievement, results, outcomes, performance-based sort of things. We get that as well. And third, contribution, feeling that value from giving to people, like you mentioned, perhaps people in charity, doing volunteer work. And the fourth one is the most interesting one. The one we are mostly at, we are at kind of like between 1 and 3 or most of the time, right? But 4. How many of us actually get to that stage, Eileen?
I think every time when I think of level 4, I think of Mother Teresa.
Oh, wow,
I think of Nelson Mandela. I think of Gandhi. I mean, these are the famous people, but I do have people working within our midst. I mean, I have a colleague who forks out about 5 figure every year out of his own pocket, and he makes trips on a mission to save those underage girls who are slaves, and he tries to save them from those underdeveloped countries, and he does it on his own. And these are the people who are never glorified or put in a public figure where they are being rewarded. He's no media celebrity. So there are people, and to him, I think it's really something good. I think he is on the first step to transcendent sort of gratification. He just wants to make the world a much better place. World peace kind of stuff.
They found a deeper goal for themselves.
Much
There's something
deeper
that
meaning.
is quite, I don't think anything is done purely altruistically, but they're quite close to that, isn't it?
Yeah, and I've come across people who have, sold their either given up their jobs or sold their entire business just to pursue a greater meaning in life, which is to help build homes. And basically you just ask them, whatever happened to level 1? What's retail therapy to such people?
Right,
So it's really a different level. So I think Aristotle kind of puts it very nicely in that sense. So it's good to kind of do a little check as to where we are, and when you look at celebrities or anyone who has achieved a lot in life, and yet they're still unhappy, then maybe they want to question, most people would then go on to the level 4 transcendent path.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. We're talking about this whole spectrum, right? We're not advocating that any
No.
one of them is the best one. It really
Everyone
depends
is
on depends on what works for you. Level 1 might work for you at this time, level 3 at another time. So really it is about thinking about it critically and deciding what perhaps you have not done, which might give you that fulfillment. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think the good news is that while 50% of our body makeup is genetic, so we can be born happy. So I'm always asked this question,
Really?
Are we natural? Is happiness a nature, or can it be nurtured?
Well, I think let's put it this way. Some of us are born perhaps genetically programmed to look for happiness, right? Or to seek out things that fulfill us. So that it's not happiness itself that's inborn,
Absolutely,
right? But
we're born with actually the traits to be happy.
Yes, the disposition, yeah.
So Martin Seligman, who's the author of Authentic Happiness, talks a little in detail on these 24 traits, but we're not going to dive into that. The good news is it's both nature and nurture. So 50% of it, you are born with those traits, and the other 50%, 40 to 50%, you can learn.
Yes.
And I think that's the good news. Of course, some of us might want a quick fix, and some people would ask me, okay, so what are some of the quick fix you can think of? some people would say, is it medically proven? Are there happy hormones? The four commonly quoted happy hormones are endorphin, right? So basically you are able to endure the pain. The second one is serotonin, where it regulates your mood and it copes, it works against depression. Melatonin, where it helps you to sleep better at night. And then progesterone, so it helps builds your memory as well.
Right.
But having said all this, I'm just wanting to warn everybody, please don't rush to your next, to your doctor and then get injected with all these hormones because there's absolutely side effects as well. The good news is you can actually generate all this very naturally, which brings me to the first tactic. If you think of, if you're keen in pursuing happiness, then just think along the lines of the HAPPY acronym, starting with H, right? H it's got everything to do with health. Okay, so health through exercise, you actually helps your body to produce a lot more endorphin. So it comes out naturally, right? And then get out there, get the sunlight, because sunlight actually helps to also produce serotonin as well. And the melatonin that we spoke about actually is produced from the existence of serotonin in your body. So anybody who is medically keen to find out, you can always research this up. And progesterone, so what do we do with this? We can actually help work our brain to remember better. So just to work against dementia and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of the first, three. I haven't heard of the progesterone.
Yes, progesterone.
So this is to do with fulfillment that is contingent on memory power?
Yes, because people who cannot remember do get unhappy as well.
Right.
But happy hormones.
That's fascinating.
But we're not talking about medical fix, all right? Let's talk about something which is very practical. So I mentioned about health, but the H also stands for humor.
All right.
So laughter is very important. I know you had a speaker on your show, the laughter yoga.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And I think I'm all thumbs up for what he's advocating. But essentially what happens here is that when we laugh, we really need to do the Duchenne smile. What is the Duchenne smile?
Yes, yeah.
So basically what
Duchenne... see the puzzled look on my face. It's
so Duchenne smile essentially is... It comes about from the happy nuns theory.
Happy nuns, as in N-U-N.
As in N-U-N,
okay.
Yes, correct, happy nuns.
Okay.
Dr. Guillaume Duchenne is a French neurologist, and he did an experiment on facial expression, and he kind of inject a lot of electric probes into the face just to see which muscle actually gets involved when we express ourselves facially. What he found out is there's actually two sets of involuntary muscles on our face. One which works around the corner of the eyes is called orbicularis oculi muscle, and then another set of involuntary muscle is around the corners of the mouth. Is zygomatus major muscle.
Are you taking these down? It's okay. I mean, the names are not important.
The names are not important, but what happened is, I'm sure you and I have gone through many, many cases where we get into some guttural laughter.
Right.
Where jokes are so funny, we're holding on to our tummy, and then we start to laugh and exude the kind of smile where we tend to get crow's nest around the eyes, and the mouth is widened such that all the cheeks are...
The ugly smile.
The ugly
which
smile,
is the authentic smile, really.
Which is the authentic smile.
So Duchenne was actually researching the authentic smile.
Yes, so Dr. Guillaume actually did that.
Right,
so,
okay.
That's how the word Duchenne smile came about.
Okay.
So he did this study with 118 nuns in Milwaukee. And what better to select the pool of nuns because they're all living in the same very controlled environment. So what he did was out of the 118 nuns, those that lived, there is one particular nun that lived up to the age of 94. And then and another died at the age of 59. So what they did was, what was different? I mean, they went through the same routine. They had the same diet. And so what was different? What they found
obviously
was...
they were all kind of like spiritually nourished as well, right? So no question there.
Yeah,
so what else?
Right,
what else was...
so what was the missing piece? So the missing piece was that the nun who lived up to 94, see, every one of them, when they enter the nunnery, they need to write, right? The reason for wanting to join the nunnery. So in their letter, they were examining the notes, and the nun who lived up to 94 had her note written up with a lot of positive words, words like I'm very happy, there's words like eager joy, whereas compared to the one that died at 59 had no positive emotive words at all. So there's a lot of research around the happy nuns theory, all about using positive words to actually be in the mood of being happy. So that is one. But the study actually went on by Kettler and Leanne, where they examined 141 women in a college yearbook photo. All right, half of the group of 141 women had a Duchenne smile.
Oh.
And the other half did not have a Duchenne smile. So they were tracking. And they found, and when they did a survey, they found that the group that had the Duchenne smile actually had significantly higher scores of physical and emotional well-being as compared to the other group. So research does, has already shown that it does promote longevity, it does promote positive emotions. So the more we laugh, and kudos to the laughter yoga, it actually helps us to be in a state of happiness, be it at work or out of work. So as you're, on a journey to search for a job, you can also instill a level of laughter, humor in your life.
Yeah. I mean, of course, we have heard about laughter yoga, and that works as well on a physical level, and that it translates into your psychological as well, because we all know it's interconnected, right? You force yourself to laugh. It may seem fake at the moment, but you still are getting the health benefits, the increased oxygen and all that sort of thing, right? But we also should develop, like you mentioned earlier, a sense of humor, and we all have a sense of humor, okay?
Yes.
I mean, there's no need to deny it. I know some people say that I'm not funny at all, or I'm a very serious person, but that's not true. I mean,
but
everybody
you can be
has
infected. You can be
yes,
infected.
you can.
We are all inbuilt with mirror neurons. So I've tried this many times, right? I get two people to stand back to back, and we'll say one of you will smile, focus on smiling, and the other person will focus on not smiling.
Okay.
And by the time they turn around, in less than 5 seconds, you would smile.
Definitely,
but in a group of, say, 100 people in a room where I tried this, there's always one or two couple that will not smile.
Right. Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
So they bung the test, right?
Right.
So basically what happened there is when you probe a little further, the mindset was that person had to think of something that really infuriates him or makes him really unhappy or sad. And then that would stop him from smiling.
So again, it's that resistance,
it's
right?
that resistance,
we really,
and therefore the power of the mind. You will yourself not to be happy, and therefore you refuse to smile. But if everybody, so I replay the game again, everybody had to think happy thoughts, 100% will end up smiling, and 100% will end up laughing. So, but we need to be cautious that Duchenne smile is not the same as the Pan-American smile. Anyway, so moving on, the next alphabet in the acronym HAPPY is attitude of gratitude. I think you spoke about this last week as well. But all of us go through career with a lot of mentors, and in fact, we do have sponsors as well. So I do encourage everyone to take time to say thanks and give thanks to the sponsors. Whether you're at work or looking forward, this will be the best time to give thanks to them. I spoke about the mindset at the game where two people actually turn around, and then you have to think of something really unhappy. The power of the mind to think happy thoughts is very important. So changing your perception actually is also another step of staying happy. The next P, if you look at the HAPPY acronym, is pay forward. I think what we want to do here is to help you move to the level 3 or level 4 of happiness is to first start by helping others. And when we look at the laws of persuasion, the first law of persuasion is actually reciprocity. So the more you help people, people will feel the need to want to return that favor. I'm not saying 100% of the time, but at least you put people in a very happy state to want to return that favor. So, I think paying forward is one way of achieving happiness.
Yeah, we all need a community, and we need that social connectivity with other people. So it's a win-win process. We give, we get back, right? It's
That's
fair.
right. Yes. And the last alphabet in the HAPPY acronym is U. yourself.
Okay.
So you need to start by being happy before you want to make the world a happy place. Before you start blaming the company for not providing a happy environment, every one of us can be a happiness ambassador. We can do our part. Charity begins at home. And in fact, if you look at the 6 degrees of separation, when you're happy, you infect others to be happy as well.
Yeah, we really need to take back that responsibility, right? I mean, work, no matter how long you work, 8, 12 hours, outside of that, that is the opportunity, the window of opportunity that you really have for yourself. You're truly your own person. You are as rich as the richest person in the world during those hours, really, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So during those hours, make sure you try and put in, you owe it to yourself, really, to increase the happiness quotient in your life, and hopefully from that, you will spill over into your work as well.
And I think a lot of companies can do this one thing. 20th March is the International Day of Happiness. I hope we get a lot more companies to actually celebrate that day.
All right, thank you very much for reminding us of that. Eileen, 20th of March, put that in your calendar. Eileen Seah was my guest today, an organizational psychologist, an executive career and talent coach. You can find her on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. And I'm Eugene Loh. This has been a Slice of Life, Hour 938 Live.